Lutheran Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance delivered by Commissioner Flesher. But we'll begin, as we do, with a moment of silent reflection for our first responders. And I'd ask you, if you would today, to keep Arnie Schwitzenberg in your thoughts and prayers. Arnie was a Pearl Harbor survivor who died this past Sunday. Please rise.
Good morning. The Lord be with you. Almighty God, you have called us today to labor in your vineyard, and without you we can do nothing. Grant your gracious presence at this meeting, that what we do will build up your whole church and this community and this county and all who live and work and play here. Let your Holy Spirit govern and direct us, that we may consult together peacefully and in love and respect, pleasing you with all that we say and do. Amen.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Chairman, thank you. I just want to say a word. You mentioned earlier about Arnie Schwitzenberg and the tragic loss. At age 96, Arnie has lost his life subsequent to some injuries sustained in a car crash just last week. Most of you know Arnie, and Arnie was a true American patriot, a true American hero, and a Pearl survivor, one of the very few left. And one of the things I ask is that we just keep his family in your thoughts and prayers. Arnie was known to begin the Pledge of Allegiance with "We the people." He was emphatic that we are the people. So with your indulgence, I ask you to begin today in honor of Arnie Schwitzenberg, "We the people." Thank you. We pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Shreves and Commissioner Flesher. We'll move on to additions and deletions to the agenda. Are there any? So you have a motion from Commissioner Adams, second from Commissioner Flesher. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. We'll move on to proclamations and presentations. The first is a presentation on the Veterans Outreach Golf Tournament by U.S. Army Sergeant retired Curtis Paulson, Vice President of the Veterans Council of Indian River County, and U.S. Army Sergeant retired Gary James. Gentlemen, welcome and thank you for coming today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Always good to be back here in front of this dignified group of commissioners we have here.
Little light staff today, but we'll do it.
I'm sure they're here in heart, right?
As you all know, every year we have our golf tournament, the Veterans Outreach Golf Tournament. This year, the proceeds are going to be going to our buses. You guys are always good to us every year, but the buses are finally starting to get over 100,000 piece in mileage. And as you all know, we take those down there 5 days a week to take our veterans to their appointments in West Palm Beach. But another thing that we do locally, which other counties don't do, is we take our veterans also to their local appointments here also. So all the proceeds from the golf tournament this year are going to purchase some big buses. I'm going to let Gary go ahead and speak to the golf tournament, when it's going to be, and the amount, and some sponsorship.
Yeah, and this is a fourth year we've had the golf tournament, and luckily we've been able to raise probably close to $80,000. Every dime of that stayed in Indian River County with the veterans. Unlike other organizations, you know, and good, bad, or indifferent, they come here, they put on a whatever, and sometimes some of the proceeds leave the county. We make sure that doesn't happen. It goes toward the veterans of Indian River County, and that's what we want to do. The golf tournament is this year. It's on Saturday, June the 16th. Again, it's at Sand Ridge, $65 per player. And need to thank the commissioners, because without you guys and the support that you give the Sandridge, being a county golf course, it's a great facility. We love having the opportunity to play there. We've had people come from, gosh, all over the United States, basically, that have played in these tournaments with us, and everybody raves about how nice these courses look. So, it's a feather in your hat. Again, this is a 4th year, and without your support, we couldn't do this. I mean, you hear this all the time, but, we do certainly appreciate everything you do for us, from bringing the tents in, letting us set up and cook the way we cook and do the things we do, and help us out in the community to get the word out. Without you guys, it'd be a harder hurdle. So I'll turn it back over to Curtis, and look forward to seeing you all next Saturday, a week from Saturday. Thanks.
We'll be there.
As always, you guys always have a great showing over there, and we certainly appreciate it. This year, we've made a couple changes due to the fact that we've had to turn golfers away the last year or two. Bella has been kind enough to let us put another flight, so we're going to use the Lakes course also besides the dunes. The main course is going to be the 120 golfers. Then we have another flight, which I have 40 more golfers over on the Lakes course. On the Route 60 Hyundai was generous enough, we're going to have a car there this year on the 17th hole. So we have a hole-in-one hole this year, so if you guys want, it's 172 yards, so you all can start practicing. I know, Commissioner, you don't golf yet, do you?
I don't.
And I know Commissioner Fleischer,
Just
I
throw
haven't
it,
seen
Bob.
you out there either. 172 yards, you might be able to throw it, so. Anyway, the sponsorships, we appreciate, Mr. Slyer, you've always been great. You and Jackie support us. Commissioner Fleischer, you always support us. We're always taking, we have about 5 teams left if people are interested in coming out. I know Jason's going to be playing with us also. So the sponsorships that we have are, we have a sponsor a veteran, which is $65. We have a bronze sponsor, which is $500. We have silver sponsor, which is $1,000, and then our tournament sponsor, which is Dogs for Life this year. And she's very generous to us, is $2,500, and then we have the whole sponsors for $100. So we'd love to have you guys come out there. We always see you. We don't get to see many people from the city. I think just one gentleman, I think you know who that is, that I think he's forced to come out there at times. So, but we look forward to having you. The veterans, the vets do love seeing you guys out there and supporting us, and we sincerely appreciate it.
Well, we thank you very much for you putting on the golf tournament. It is a great tournament, and we're, I think, all happy that you're up to 160 people this year. That's tremendous. If somebody still wants to take advantage of one of those last slips, who would they call?
They can, actually, I'm going to put my number out because I don't have somebody else's number in my head. Actually, I will. Pat Geyer, 772-205-1995.
And if anybody in the audience misses that, they can call the Board of County Commission office, and one of us will make sure that we connect you with the Veterans Golf.
Or you can go to our website also, veteranscouncil.org for Indian River.
Great. Commissioner Fleischer and I are going to work on the weather. We should have left it to
I'm
sunshine
going to
over
ask
there.
you, Bob,
but,
if you could have about a 78-degree day, we'd appreciate it.
okay, we'll work on that.
We love our veterans, but we don't want to get rained on ourselves as well. And again, I truly appreciate the support from the community for the overflow attendance. But I understand there's still some more availability for sponsorship.
Yes, there is.
And I'd like to sponsor another hole.
Definitely.
So if we can do that, if you could bring this back to base and get it out there, and we'll see what we can do if anybody else wants to support our Veterans Council and sponsor a hole.
You have a hole in mind.
17th.
I'll
hole
put the
sounds
sign
good.
up, Joe, personally. You tell me which hole you want,
That's your choice.
okay?
Definitely.
Veterans always make the right choice.
You got it.
All right. Okay, thank you very much. I will take that though from you, Commissioner.
Gentlemen,
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you, Sarge.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you. Weather.
Thank you. Next up, we've got a great show prepared for the audience today. It's going to be on hurricane preparedness. And we have, Tad, we have our fire chief, Etta and Stephanie, you're not coming up? We should have everybody at the podium here.
It is on the injured reserve list, but she's doing well. thank y'all for the opportunity to come up for just a few minutes and kind of go over some of the things that we've been working on for emergency management and kind of give you an overview of where we are today. Indian River's had a couple of close calls over the past couple of years. In 2016, we had, of course, Hurricane Matthew, Category 4, stayed offshore, and we did have gusts at hurricane speed. It came through the county. Last year, in September, that was 15 days after I came to work here. Thank you all very much. We had, of course, Irma came right up through the center of the state, and it was west of us, and we had wind speeds at 62 miles an hour inside the county. Now, this is what we commonly refer to in the business as the NOAA SLOP model. Actually, you've got such a wide spread of potential hurricane activity, and it's based on El Nino, La Nina, weather patterns in the Pacific, and everything that influences those. But it's going to be an average to slightly above average hurricane season that we're expecting for this next year. And we've been very busy trying to get cranked up for some of the activity that we're anticipating. We've had some tremendous meetings with the school board, also with the Red Cross, to try to get some of the sheltering issues nailed down good for us. We've rewritten some of the response plans for the fire departments, and we're in the final stages for that. So we've been very busy trying to get all these documents up and moving. Since 2004, of course, I was not here in 2004. I was one county over in Osceola County. But there have been tremendous changes and tremendous advancements in some of the things that we've been doing. The improved coordination between all the agencies, whether it's federal, state, or local. Sometimes we're a little bit better on the state and local side. Sometimes we're a little worse off than we were back then. I think Dylan's going to talk to you briefly about some of those challenges. Public outreach has been tremendous. We didn't have some of the tools back then that we currently have now. We have Facebook, Twitter accounts, all those other things, plus our own app that we push information out. And I got to hand it to Rachel, who works in our office, who's tremendous about pushing that information out and making sure that everybody's up to speed. We've had some building code changes, and we've had we're hardening the structures as we continue to build. Our EOC is probably one of the state-of-the-art as far as construction wind survivability. And we continue to train. We continue to be able to communicate better between the agencies. We just completed an incident command, an ICS 300 program, which had Public Works, law enforcement, fire, all the participating agencies were all in one room, all went through a week-long training program. So that was very advantageous for all of us. Okay. We do a little bit more than just hurricanes in the emergency management arena. We're one of the very few, I think we're the only community outside of a small municipality that's classified as tsunami ready. And believe it or not, they do exist. It can happen in the state of Florida, especially if you have an eruption in the Puerto Rico area or an earthquake in Puerto Rico area that can actually push a wave this far forward. We have cybersecurity issues, hurricane severe weather, and we also do radiological incidents. And that's the one thing that most people don't realize how much we are involved with that. We have full-time staff members that are actually dedicated to radiological emergencies and getting things done in that area. Ed is real good about throwing real quick quotes at me about famous people and what they've said. Individual commitment to a group effort is what makes a team work. And that's no truer word said when we're trying to deal with an emergency management issue when you're bringing all the players in. Okay.
And that's to say that the recovery of Indian River County can't be attributed to one person. It's an entire group that makes us successful in bringing our community back together.
Absolutely. So with that, I'm going to say that I'm with the Solid Waste Disposal District, so this is an example of us all working together. Stephanie Fonville, the recycling coordinator. So I wanted to take a second just to talk a little bit about how to prepare your family and your home in the event of a hurricane. We put out advertisements along with emergency services. We work together to try to inform the residents of the community how they can be prepared. So a couple of things: know if you reside in an evacuation area, and if you do, just have a plan, find a local shelter or find family members that you can stay with in the event of a hurricane. Make sure you inventory and update your supply kit. Make sure that you have at least 3 days worth of water. So that's about 1 gallon per person per day. Make sure to include your pets in your emergency plan and secure your home. If you need a special needs shelter, you will need to register for one, so please look into that and find where those are. If there is an immediate threat, make sure that you listen to the local news or NOAA weather radio. Make sure you fill your car's gas with, your car's tank with gas. And make sure you have any important documents or any medications that you have in case that you need to evacuate. So being the recycling coordinator, I've been asked why we get so involved in hurricane preparedness. And part of the reason for that is we want to really encourage residents to start preparing now. So trim your trees in your yard. Make sure that you do that before a hurricane hits so we don't have those sitting on the side of the road. Also clear your home of debris, clear your yard and your garages as well. Make sure that you can get to the light switch boxes, your generators, things in the garage that you might need, extra batteries. So clear out your home of debris and bring all of your unwanted items to either the main county landfill or one of the customer convenience centers. The times and locations of that can be found at ircrecycles.com. These are two pictures that were taken right before Hurricane Irma. These are at the customer convenience centers, and as you can see, the containers are pretty full. So that's why we really want to encourage residents to start preparing now, start cleaning these things out now, so that you can avoid the long lines and the overflowing garbage dumpsters that we have. This is at Roseland and at the Gifford Center. So please, please, please come and visit us now, clean things out now, so that we can avoid this situation. So one of the things I did want to mention, as I said, you can avoid the long lines. Those garbage containers do get full. So in the event that, let's say, one of the customer convenience centers, for safety reasons or just for the fact that their containers are full, you can't dump anything else there. You have to find a new container, or you have to find a new customer convenience center. Just come and bring them to us now. So this is a picture at the Oslo Convenience Center. They actually have these metal sheets on hinges. So when those are pulled up, as you can see in that left-hand and right-hand picture, they're pulled up. That means that either there's no dumpster there or the dumpster is full and nothing can be dumped there. So this is just at the Oslo Convenience Center. So please, please, please start preparing now. Trim your trees. Get rid of all the debris that you don't need. Get prepared for this hurricane season. And we're actually hoping to help you do that. We have two events coming up on this Saturday. One is the Hurricane Expo. Emergency services will be there. One of my coworkers will actually be there as well. We'll be handing out information. That's June 9th from 10 to 2 at the Indian River Mall. So come join us for that. Get lots of information about hurricane preparedness. And we are also hosting one of our solid waste disposal district recycling events. So that's where I will be on Saturday. So you can come visit me. We're recycling old electronics and household hazardous waste on June 11th at the IG building. So again, that's from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. June 9th. I don't know what I said, but it's on June 9th, this Saturday. So come and bring us all of your old electronics, and as we said, start preparing now and get everything cleaned out of your home. So with that, if you have any questions for us, please come and visit us at either of those two events.
If I could, I'd just like to follow up on three things which I think are generally easy, but which some of us, including our house last year, forgot. You know, get your water now. Get your batteries now, because when you try to get them just before the hurricane, you know, those double C batteries that you need are suddenly not there. And as soon as you hear of a hurricane coming, fill your car with gas. And I think with those three, you're probably halfway there, and we can leave the rest to the paid professionals, and we thank you very much for all the work you do. You know, last comment I want to make is how impressive it actually is at the Emergency Services Center, running up to the event, during the event, and after the event. And I'm very glad that I get to be there up to the event and gone during the event and after the event. But thank you for all the work that you do there.
And Chair, if I may add something, and Chief Stone had referenced it, this is just a warning to this board and to the citizens of Indian River County. What Chief Stone was alluding to was back in May, the FDOT secretary essentially stated that the state of Florida was not going to enter into debris hauling contracts in advance of hurricane season. What this means is that the FDOT will be watching to see when a hurricane hits, if a hurricane hits, and then they will use emergency measures to hire debris contractors to take care of debris on state roads. That means they will be able to charge whatever they plan to charge for those events, and they may be preventing us from being able to utilize our local debris haulers and our local debris subcontractors, which means that if we have a major hurricane that hits and the state is willing to overpay for subcontractors and contractors for work, expect for Indian River County staff not to be able to respond locally because of what FDOT has done to manage their roads. And that could be anywhere in the state of Florida. So subcontractors and contractors in Indian River County could be pulled from our area to service some other area of the state because of this decision by FDOT, and this could set us back in our timelines in being able to respond to storms locally.
That sounds almost as bad as waiting until after the hurricane to buy the batteries.
Wow.
Anything else? Thank you very much for coming today. We appreciate the update.
What, Mr. Chairman?
Jason?
I just wanted to add on to what Dylan was saying. You know, I think the state is kind of reacting. They're fighting the last war. If you look, Hurricane Irma took a unique path from the bottom of Florida up through a large portion. So a larger portion of the state was impacted by Irma than a normal hurricane track where it impacts one portion of the state. And I think they've taken a knee-jerk reaction to basically do this based on what happened in Irma, which we saw some of that where there were some places that issued new contracts after and they were paying up. That's a very dangerous game to play because you don't know if you're going to get reimbursement from FEMA when you do that. So someone's taking a very short-term view that, okay, we'll get the roads cleaned up, but FEMA reimbursement may be jeopardized altogether. So it puts everyone else in that position of doing that. I'd also like to add that they told us they plan to do one pass and on all their state roads, and after that, they're not going to touch it. So apparently, if they go and they clean up a portion of US 1 or A1A or State Road 60, and then new debris shows up there, the DOT position is they're not coming back to pick it up. So I don't know who's going to pick it up, but DOT has certain responsibilities to maintain certain state roads, so apparently they're just going to leave debris piled on the side of the road if somebody puts it there after their contractor has been through there. So that'll be interesting to see how that works out.
Thank you, Jason. There being nothing else, we'll move on to information items. Anybody wish to discuss any of the two information items? I'll just note for the audience that if you didn't get the details on the electronics and household hazardous waste event, they're on information items 7A. So visit the website and all the details will be there. Consent agenda. Anybody wish to pull something from the consent agenda? Anybody from the audience wish to pull anything from the consent agenda for discussion? There be nothing to be pulled.
Mr. Vice Chairman, move approval.
We'll give the motion to Commissioner Flesher, the second by Commissioner Adams. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0. We will 3-0. And let me say that the reason that there are only three of us here today is because Chairman O'Brien and Commissioner Zork are in Tallahassee, I believe, right now at a public service commission dealing with the sale of Vero Electric to FP&L, and we certainly hope that that meeting goes well. We'll move on to public items. The first is a public hearing. This public hearing is a county-initiated request to amend the text of the sanitary sewer sub-element for the septic to sewer conversion and the associated text of the future land use element of the county's comprehensive plan. And we have Mr. Bowling here to guide us through this public hearing this morning. Good morning, Stan.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Stan Bowling, Community Development Director. We have two comprehensive plan text amendments for you all to consider again. One set deals with the sanitary sewer sub-element and future land use element. Another deals with sea level rise. Both have been through this and tracked through and processed at the same time, initiated in January and went to the Planning and Zoning Commission in February with their support and recommendation for approval, then before you all in March. And there was unanimous approval to transmit to other agencies. We've done that since March. There have been no comments or objections from any of the agencies, and it's back to you all at a hearing this morning for your action together. If they're approved, then they'll be transmitted to the state and go through a short appeal period and then go into effect. The first set of changes to consider are changes to the sanitary sewer sub-element and future land use element dealing with septic to sewer conversion, and also updating general text. Another item that I'll present later deals with sea level rise. Again, the Planning and Zoning Commission has reviewed this particular set of amendments dealing with the sanitary sewer sub-element, voted 5-0 for board approval. And the board, again in March, took action to move the set of amendments forward. And we've had no comments or objections from state agencies. Just a bit of refresher, in March of 2016, the board directed Utility Services to evaluate a countywide septic to sewer conversion plan. That plan went through quite a bit of development, and in July of last year was approved and has a ranking priority for septic to sewer conversions based upon the biggest bang for the buck, so to speak, the biggest benefit for the lagoon. That was the first phase of the septic to sewer initiative from the county. The second phase is what we're going through right now, incorporating that ranking plan into the comprehensive plan. And then for actually doing those projects, the phases 3 and 4 will be to identify financing options and then actually implement the projects themselves. Also, there were a number of items that we wanted to take advantage of while we were doing some changes in the sanitary sewer element to update text, because there was a lot of information that needed to be updated, so we've done that. And we've also incorporated, again, the potential septic to sewer projects, incorporated the study that's been approved by the board, and set some policies that deal with that. So we've updated a lot of the data and analysis that deals with that particular issue, and set some new and actually sort of made a few more advances, so to speak, in some of the policies to have fewer, to actually increase the number of sewer connections and decrease the number of new septic tanks in the county, and set specific objectives for having at least 5 of the 35 priority subdivisions implemented over the next 10 years. Also, we've made some clarifications in the policies themselves regarding when capacity exists to have developments tie into county reuse lines. Those reuse lines are not quite as widespread as the water and sewer system, so we needed that clarification. We've also updated language regarding the county's commitment to consider opportunities for funding septic to sewer projects, actually make that a policy. It's been a practice of the board, but now will be in the comprehensive plan itself. Again, reducing the number of new septic permits, the target for that, down from 450 to 200 annually. And also clarifying a policy, removing a blanket exception for existing subdivisions to continue to use septic systems. If a sewer project goes in, then the board will have the option to require connection if they so choose. Also, we established some other policies encouraging when septic systems, older systems are upgraded, encouraging the individual homeowners to meet current standards applied by the health department. Again, from health department standards standpoint, those particular repair jobs are grandfathered in under older regulations, but we would encourage, and the health department certainly encourages them to bring them up to newer standards. There's also a number of references that are updated in the plan as well. I did want to mention that, again, the reasons why we're making these changes, there have been 2 really substantial changes in circumstances. One was approval of the septic to sewer project study, and that needed to be incorporated into the plan. The proposed amendment will do so. And also, we needed to update outdated references and actually some outdated data, and we've done that in the proposed amendment. So the recommendation of staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission is that the board approve this comprehensive plan text amendment dealing with the sanitary sewer sub-element and related land use changes, and direct staff to transmit the ordinance approving those changes to the state. Glad to try to answer any questions that you all might have.
Thank you very much, Dan. Any questions for Mr. Bowling?
No, just procedurally, Mr. Vice Chairman, you've mentioned earlier that we're a little short-staffed today, and going forward, I see that there's many people here that would like to speak on this change or proposed change. With that, I would recommend continuing this to next week as well, here today and continue.
Fine, what I'll do then is I'll open the public hearing, let everybody who wants to speak today speak, close the public hearing, and then ask for a motion to continue.
This has a serious impact on the community.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now open the public hearing. If there's anybody here today who'd like to speak on this, please come up to a podium. And there are 2 podiums. Feel free to stage yourself on the one that's not being used. Good morning. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning. My name is Dan Lamson, 737 Timber Ridge Trail, Vero Beach, Florida. And I'm speaking today as the Executive Director of the Indian River Neighborhood Association. The members of the Indian River Neighborhood Association are pleased that the county has incorporated into its comp plan long-range planning for reducing the number of septic systems impacting the health of the Indian River Lagoon. We applaud the county for its 1990 passage of an ordinance requiring the installation of municipal sewer in all new developments within the urban service area. We recognize that Indian River County is the only county along the Indian River Lagoon that has this regulation. It was 2 years ago that members of our Water and Lagoon Committee met with new County Administrator Jason Brown and to urge him to include in the next year's budget funds for comprehensive study of converting septic to sewer in Indian River County. We are pleased with the progress made in this initial study. Our Water and Lagoon Committee has reviewed the proposed changes to the comprehensive plan and support the county's goals of 1, increasing to 60% from 47% the number of parcels connected to municipal sewer by 2025, connecting 5 ranked subdivisions to municipal sewer by 2028, though we wish it was more, limiting the number of new septic systems per year to 200 by 2020, and educating the general public about regular maintenance of septic systems until a mandatory program can be developed for the inspection and maintenance of, in cooperation with the Department of Health. And finally, operating the county utility service as a separate enterprise. We support the ongoing fee study and expect that fees will need to be increased to expedite the county sewer expansion. However, there are 3 areas that are not part of the comprehensive revision that need addressing. 1, a policy for mandatory connection. Indian River County has approximately 500 properties currently that have sewer lines available but are not connected. That's 500 more sewer revenue sources that could help funding additional lines or improving infrastructure. It's inconceivable that the county would spend funds installing the lines and not collect fees to recoup the funds invested. According to state statutes, the county should send a notification letter to the homeowners and record the notification. The property owner then has 1 year to connect a sewer. The recorded notice makes it clear to future owners that sewer is available. Many counties charging fees based upon water usage, whether or not they connect. Another issue is a more stringent rule than existing in-state statute that would require all septic repairs be brought up to current code, which is a 24-inch separation between the wet season water table and the bottom of the drain field. And also a 75-foot setback from well or surface water. We have approximately 17,500 pre-1983 septic systems in the county that would currently be required to repair only to 6 inches of separation, which is the original 1983 plan. Since the wettest season water table is less than 10 inches in the majority of the county, septage can leak from a 6-inch separation system into groundwater to a ditch, a canal, and ultimately the lagoon. In hardship cases, a petition for a variance could be made. And we'd like to require subdivisions requesting municipal water service to connect to sewer at the same time. If you're digging up the roads to put in water lines, it's a great time to put in sewer lines. We have several more lagoon protection recommendations regarding septic to sewer, but chose only to address these 3 issues above at this time, and we hope you'll take them into consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Good morning. Name and address for the record, please.
I'm Judy Orcutt, 4665 Pebble Bay South. I will try not to be repetitive, but I do have a prepared statement. There's a little repetition, so I'll do my best. Okay, I think we all understand that the health of the Indian River Lagoon remains impaired. We all understand that our human health and the economic well-being depend on a healthy lagoon. The seagrasses are not recovering from the 2011 die-off in spite of many great projects that have been implemented in the drainage basin. These projects are working. They're reducing nutrient input to the lagoon. According to early reports from the Marine Resources Council on the Lagoon Report Card, long-awaited Lagoon Report Card, which is due to be published later this month, the nitrogen numbers in Indian River County are going down. Unfortunately, the phosphorus numbers are increasing, even though phosphorus has been eliminated from residential fertilizer and reduced in many cleaning products. Could this phosphorus be coming from the 35,000 septic tanks in the county? Could it be coming from the biosolids being applied on our farmlands? Is it a legacy load from the farmland within the basin? We still have a lot of work to do. The comp plan changes presented today are a wonderful step in the right direction. I applaud the county staff for addressing the sanitary sewer revisions in a logical, systematic way. We now have a defensible plan for moving forward through the neighborhoods with sewer services and for applying for matching grant funding. We're lucky to have had visionary commissioners and staff who passed regulation in 1990, which required the new developments within the urban service area to provide sewer service. It shocks me that other counties along the lagoon are still permitting subdivisions with septic tanks. But there are a few gaps in our regulation that still need addressing, and so I'm going to try and be brief and mention 5 today. The county's goal to provide sewer service to 5 ranked subdivisions by 2028. That's 5 subdivisions out of 325. The county's goal is to have sewers to 60% of the parcels within the service area by 2025. But what about the remaining 30,000 septic systems that won't be on sewer? Are there some ordinances that could be passed to ensure that those systems are operating properly, are being pumped out every 5 years as should be done? Education encouragement are not sufficient considering the state of the IRL. State statute number 381.00651 effectively prevents local home rule from developing strong inspection and maintenance programs. It should be part of the county's legislative agenda to change or to eliminate this rule and to develop a strong inspection and maintenance program. In addition, the county health department pays to have an online reporting system to track septic system pump outs. There could be an ordinance in the county that requires the contractors to report each pump out. And in that way, problem areas with the county could be easily identified. Number 2, what about the remaining 17,000 septic systems that were installed prior to 1983? These are the old systems that have been mentioned with only 6-inch separation between the drain field and the wettest water table. They were installed frequently within 25 feet of the lagoon or other surface water. In this situation, the state statute is not strong enough. It allows the repairs on those systems to be grandfathered in at the original rule, at the original code. But we, as a county, could have the ability to pass a stronger rule. Just like hurricane building codes, these systems should be brought up to current code, which provides 24-inch separation. And what about the 500 septic systems that are operational now with sewer lines running in front of their house or business? Think about the amount of money it would take to put new service into 500 parcels. That's 500 parcels that have service and aren't using it. The county needs a connection policy that's implemented consistently and recorded to notify the property owners. The granting agencies expect mandatory connection when state funds are involved. It's simply good business. There's a history of confusion among property owners. Sometimes property owners are paying for a basic sewer connection availability charge, and they think they're connected to the sewer. And only later, when they have a problem with their septic tank, do they find out that they haven't been on sewer all along. And how well have they been maintaining that septic tank all those years? Number 4, when a subdivision requests county water, it only makes sense that they should have to connect to sewer at the same time. It just seems like good business. And as far as the utility fees, I know there's a study. I haven't seen it be reported to the commissioners yet, but I fully support an increase in utility fees. I think it's been a long time. Mr. Brown, is that true? How long has it been since utility fees were increased in our county?
Our last rate study was in 1999. So we've been able to maintain those rates without increasing them since that time.
Okay. I think people in Florida are going to have to learn that they're going to have to pay for the cost to have clean water and a clean place to live. So if fees go up, I fully support it. So thank you for considering my thoughts, and
Thank you for coming here today.
Yep.
Anyone else here today would like to speak on this issue? Good morning. Name and address for the record, please.
Donna Halloran, 925 Greenbrier. And I'm actually here on behalf of Dr. Richard Baker, who could not be here today. And he asked me to read his letter, and I brought copies for each of you.
Thank you.
So dear County Commissioners, septic tanks are nothing but outhouses that I have experienced when growing up. Instead of going outside to poop into a hole, we can do it inside our home. The same stuff along with food from garbage disposals down a drain hole into a tank outside that collects the solids and pours the liquid material containing nitrogen, phosphorus, medicines, chemicals, grease, etc. into a drain field. During the 19 years, 1994 to 2004, and 2009 to present, I have served on the Indian River County Environmental Control Hearing Board. The major cases have been related to our county's more than 36,000 septic tanks. Most cases seem to come from the health department staff and neighbors who smell or see pooling polluted water coming from them. These can be fixed or replaced, but unfortunately many broken systems are not found. In addition, the drain fields of nearly half, 17,554 of these 36,864 septic tanks were installed only 6 inches above our water table and 25 feet from any surface water. Septic tanks thus must be responsible for some contamination of all of our county's water resources and lagoon. The average septic system functions properly for about 18 years with proper maintenance being pumped out every 3 to 5 years. How many were installed before 2000? How many do not pump out their septic tanks regularly or only learn it is malfunctioning when there is a flushing, sewage backup, or disagreeable odor? Also, Florida's clay and sand soils are not suitable for septic tank systems. It is malfunctioning. It is more likely to pollute our lagoon, as all county waters east of I-95 flow into the lagoon. Commissioners, there are things that you can do to modernize our antiquated, primitive septic sewer disposal systems to bring it up to the 21st century that are not in the current comp plan revisions. Indian River County has approximately 500 properties that have sewer lines available that are not connected. The county must require mandatory connection when sewer lines are installed. State statute requires the county to send a notice to the owner to connect to the sewer in a year. Many counties then charge fees based on water usage, whether the owner connects or not. Let's get these 500 properties connected. Let's get our state legislature to require septic tank pump outs and inspections every 3 to 5 years, depending on the size and the use. Now, state statute 381.000651 prohibits county and cities doing this. All pump outs should be recorded to our health department. All pre-1983 septic tanks should be brought up to the current code for 24-inch separation between wet season water table and bottom of the drain field, and 75 feet from surface waters. Thankfully, all new planned developments should include connection with a modern sewer system leading to the Indian River County sewer plant for safe treatment. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. Richard H. Baker, PhD, President, Pelican Island, Audubon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And if you'd just hand those to the clerk, she can pass them our way, and she'll have one for the record. Thank you for coming today. Anyone else? Here, come on up. Name and address for the record, please.
Charlie Pope, 2305 46th Avenue, Vero Beach, Florida. This is a serious enough problem that we cannot continue to kick the can down the road. And I'm the founder of Youth Sailing Foundation, and I have hundreds of kids in the river all the time. And it's an issue that needs to be addressed. When I started youth sailing, we were going to have 10 boats and 10 kids. We've got 70 boats now and have had 800 children go through the program. And when that water, we're very concerned. So it is a serious issue. The river has deteriorated in the last 10 years since we started youth sailing. And so please, let's address this and take it as serious, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Come on up, please. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Russell Herman. I reside at 586 Redwood Court. I'm Vice President of the Friends of St. Sebastian River. Good morning, Commissioners. Edie Witter, Ocean Research and Conservation Association's Chief Scientist, states, quote, septic tanks, excuse me, septic tanks are a primary source of pollution. The chemicals we are finding in the Indian River Lagoon are not just harming wildlife. They may lead to serious health issues in humans as well. There are credible links to liver disease as well as neurological diseases such as Parkinson and Alzheimer's. We are not just hurting the animals and fish, we are harming ourselves. Brian LaPointe, a Harbor Branch research professor and study team leader, stated, quote, sewage from septic tanks is a significant contributor, in fact, a primary contributor to nutrients damaging the estuary and the reefs offshore. Government stewardship of our precious natural resources should focus on sustainability for future generations. I want to tell you a parable that affects every one of us. There was a wise old man who lived in a cave at the top of a mountain overlooking the village. He was the wisest of the wise, the most trusted man in the kingdom. But two smarty-pants high school seniors decided to pull a trick on the wise old man. They raided a bird's nest and kidnapped a newly hatched baby bird. One of the two would hold the bird in his hands, both hands behind his back. The other would say to the wise old man, wise old man, you are supposed to be so smart. So tell me, is the bird alive or dead? If the man said it was dead, the kids would bring the bird out alive. If the old man said it is alive, the boy would immediately squeeze and kill the bird and then show the wise old man the corpse. The plan was foolproof. So they went up to the cave exactly as planned. Wise old man, is the bird in my friend's hand alive or dead? The wise old man looked at the questioning boy and then at the boy holding the bird. Then he sighed rather sadly and said to both of them, the answer is in your hands, isn't it? And this is my message to you and to all my colleagues who are here today, ready to help to preserve this precious blessing, the Indian River Lagoon and the St. Sebastian River. Its future and our future is in our hands. Together, we can preserve this magnificent lagoon. It is up to us because we are the stewards of the lagoon. Decisions can be made which will preserve and maintain our beautiful lagoon, or different decisions can be made that will cause irreparable harm and damage. What is the future to be? What will it be like 20 years from now? As my story said, the answer is in your hands. Please reduce the number of septic systems impacting the health of the Indian River Lagoon. Thank you for your consideration of this vital matter.
Thank you. Anyone else here today care to speak on this issue? There being, come on up to the dais then, please. Thank you. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mark Yano, 10014 4th Street. I was not planning on speaking today because I'm on the agenda to speak on another issue, but I unfortunately can't sit there and listen to all these people come up here and comment on this without making one small, very short comment regarding this issue. Most experts agree that nutrients coming from sewage is probably one of, if not the primary issue facing the lagoon and what's causing our problems. And probably about 30 years ago, the researcher at Harbor Branch that was mentioned by the previous gentleman, Brian LaPointe, brought up septic tanks and their effects on the water quality and their potential damage to the reefs. He brought that up time and time again for about 3 decades. It wasn't until the reefs died in the Florida Keys, or pretty much, or mostly gone. I'm not going to say every reef in the Keys is gone. But finally, the tourism board and the residents of the county took notice and said, you know what, maybe this guy had a point here. And it's my understanding that they have recently, just recently, put in a $1 billion sewage treatment system in the Florida Keys. After 30 years of warnings, they waited until the reefs died before they took action. So my comment is just please heed the warnings. Septic is a big issue. I can't say for sure whether it's the #1 issue, but there are many researchers that believe it is. So please take this issue seriously. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else care to speak on this issue this morning? There being no one else, we will close the public hearing. Any last questions of staff? Anyone have a motion?
Mr. Vice Chairman, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing to next week, when we have a full board.
Motion from Commissioner Fleischer, second from Commissioner Adams. All in favor? Aye. Passes 3-0. This meeting will be continued to the next scheduled meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. And thank you, everybody, today who came and spoke on this one.
Yep. So the hearing was reopened and then continued.
Yes. We will now move on to public items A2, a public hearing, county-initiated request to amend the text of the coastal management element and future land use element of the county's comprehensive plan relating to sea level rise. Good morning again, Mr. Bowling.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is the second set of amendments that's been tracking with the January window. Just a bit of background. In 2015, the state enacted Senate Bill 1094, which essentially requires that the comprehensive plan of coastal communities address sea level rise. And even though our coastal management element references sea level rise currently, it does not really evaluate and consider the issue in a very full manner. So the state confirmed that amendments were necessary, and it makes sense that amendments would be necessary to meet the state's sea level rise requirement. And again, I know this information was presented to you all back in March, but essentially what staff has done is really used work done by others in the southeast region of Florida and taken projections, sea level rise projections, particularly ones out to 2060. And there's quite a range in projections, as you can see here. We've certainly seen that there's been, in the last, say, 120 years, maybe 12, 13 inches of rise per 100 years. And the projections are for that to accelerate, and there's quite a variety there. So what we took was essentially sort of the worst case at 2060, going far enough out to affect, we do land use plans and infrastructure plans now. We can avoid some issues looking at what the worst case might be. in 2060, and that's essentially what we have done with our analysis and some of the policies. We've also used information, and GIS is very helpful here in the county for mapping out inundation, sea level rise inundation scenarios with 1 foot, 2 foot, and 3 foot with a more likely impacted areas. Many of those areas, of course, are the low-lying areas. Many of them are wetland areas and undeveloped areas that have not been elevated or built up all the way through to a 3-foot sea level rise. And when you look at that particular mapping, that really lines up quite well with our coastal high hazard area, which we've already mapped out as well, and we have policies in place now for protection from storm surges. So we've sort of combined that information. We've assessed and looked at information on impacts under those scenarios to public facilities and so forth. And really what we've done is propose to identify the coastal high hazard area as an adaptation action area with respect to sea level rise strategies. And these strategies, really no matter how the projections ultimately play out, will give us more resiliency with respect to storm surge and any level of sea level rise that does take place. All of those types of strategies will be reflected in our coastal management element, Objective 15, and with the policy that have been proposed. And again, you all took a look at these back in March, identifying any at-risk facilities or infrastructure, impacts on coastal wetlands, and considering sea level rise projections. It's really still quite a variety of projections that are out there right now, and take a look at the newer projections whenever we do a major comprehensive plan update to keep ourselves up to date on that issue, to coordinate with the municipalities on any adaptation or mitigation measures that they do, so we kind of approach this on a county-wide basis. And again, we want to make sure that we don't put any vulnerable populations like assisted living facilities, that type of thing, in the adaptation action area. We do the same sort of thing now with the coastal high hazard area, so it would be a continuation of those policies. The policies themselves, 17.5 is the main one that deals with actually using the coastal high hazard area as the adaptation action area, and again, to put in the policies that I've just described. A couple of changes have happened since the comprehensive plan and this particular element, coastal management element, was updated. And the main one being that the state has mandated that we take a look at sea level rise. And also the other change in circumstances is just more and more evidence of that sea level rise impacts will occur. And it looks more and more likely that it'll be at a more accelerated rate than we've seen in the last 120 years. Just the prior actions, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 5-0 to recommend the board approve these proposed amendments. You all looked at them in March and voted unanimously to transmit them to the state. We've had no objections or comments from any of the reviewing agencies, so we feel that these amendments will meet the state mandate. And just in summary, again, using the sea level rise projections that are the most regionally based, we've looked at the potential impacts under a 1 foot, 2 foot, and 3 foot sea level rise scenario, and think that these amendments will provide some policies and strategies that will help us mitigate and be more resilient if those impacts occur. So staff's recommendation and the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission is that the board approve and adopt these proposed amendments. And I'd be glad to try to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Stan. Any questions for Mr. Bowling? There being none, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public today who'd like to speak on this issue? And once again, I'll ask you to give your name and address for the record, please.
Judy Orcutt, 4665 Pebble Bay South. I have a question more than a comment. I'm really glad that this is being addressed. But I wondered if anyone has done a study to see how sea level rise is going to impact groundwater.
Right, that's actually one of the things to do. That's on the list in the policies to evaluate that. I think also, besides groundwater, which is one of the factors, is also look at the water control district systems that are in place and what the impacts are. So we've had discussions at a staff level, but not a serious study. So I think those are the next steps.
And then that reflects back to the whole septic issue also. If we have a 10-inch, high water table now, and then if we were going to have sea level rise, how many of those septic systems is going to be sitting in the groundwater? I think that's just something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Having given the public adequate notice to chat today, we will close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Make a motion to adopt the plan amendment and transmit the findings to the state.
We have a motion to adopt from Commissioner Flesher, seconded by Commissioner Adams. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you very much. We will move on to public discussion items. Request to speak from Mark Yano regarding the future boating access to South County. Good morning. Once again, your name and address for the record, please.
Thanks.
Good morning again, Commissioners. My name is Mark Yano, 1001 4th Street. Thank you, Commissioners, for allowing me about 3 minutes of your time to speak today. I am here to provide some information for the record regarding future boating access in South Indian River County. Over 3 years ago, myself and several others met with Commissioner Zork to discuss an alternative mainland boat ramp location in lieu of the Oslo boat ramp. It was stated that as development in South Indian River County increases in the future, there would eventually be a need for expanding boating access. While examining aerial photographs, my experience as a former U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service employee, as well as valuable input from others present, was used to evaluate potential boat ramp locations from the city of Vero Beach south to the county line. Due to the very shallow water along the mainland shoreline and the rule of no new dredging in the State Aquatic Preserve along the entirety of that shoreline, it was determined that there was only one potential location for the future placement of a boat ramp. That location was on City of Vero Beach property next to the 17th Street Causeway. The City of Vero Beach recently informed the county that although they had no funds to participate in the construction of a boat ramp, they would be willing to lease a portion of the property to the county so that a boat ramp could be constructed at some time in the future. It is my understanding that the commissioners voted to decline this offer based on staff concerns, largely related to manatees that previously concentrated near the now decommissioned power plant. I was not able to get to the last commission meeting in time to provide any comments on this overall issue of future boating access in South Indian River County. Upon my arrival and learning of the 5-0 vote against a lease with the city, Paul Fafeda and I immediately went to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service office in Vero Beach to meet with a biologist. While they can only officially comment on an existing project proposal, we were informed upon discussion of a potential future boat ramp near the decommissioned Vero Beach power plant that a similar situation arose a couple of years ago 14 miles to the south at the decommissioned power plant in Fort Pierce. It was stated to us that due to the decommissioning of the Fort Pierce power plant, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service no longer had any manatee concerns related to the construction of boating facilities adjacent to the defunct power plant. A precedent has been set, and it was inferred that manatee concerns related to the past operation of the Vero Beach power plant would likely no longer exist. While there is currently no need for additional boating facilities in Indian River County, I would like to state for the record that if this property offered by the city of Vero Beach to lease This opportunity offered by the city of Vero Beach to lease a portion of the property for a future boat ramp is declined, the city of Vero Beach will likely commit that property to other uses, and there will be no further opportunity for expanded boating access in South County. Thank you again, Commissioners.
Thank you very much. We move on to public notice items. There are 3, and I will ask Mr. Reingold to read them off for the public.
Thank you very much. As Commissioner Solari, the Vice Chair, stated, there are 3 public notice items. First is a notice of a scheduled public hearing for June 12th, 2018. This will be Vero 53 Landings LLC's request for conceptual site plan and special exception use approval for the Certus of Vero Beach Adult Congregate Living Facility. There's also a notice of a public hearing for June 12th, 2018, Harmony Reserve LLC's request to rezone approximately 2.18 acres from RS3 residential single family up to 3 units per acre and RM6 residential single family up to 6 units per acre to PD, planned development residential, and to modify the conceptual PD plan approval for a project to be known as Harmony Reserve PD. And finally, the third item is a notice of public hearing for June 19th, 2018. This is a request by David Hassler, Eve Hassler, Nancy Ellen Casey, trustee, Florida Academy of Impairment Ratings, Inc., and Kashi Church Foundation, Inc., for the abandonment of 2 20-foot wide roadway easements over lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, POD G or Pod G Village of Kashi PD. So the first 2 public hearings that I announced will be on June 12th, and the third one concerning the right-of-way will be on June 19th. With that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reingold. Moving on to county administrative matters, the approval of a revision to the retiree health benefits and subsidy policy. Mr. Brown.
Thank you. Indian River County retirees are eligible to receive subsidies in some cases depending on their years of service and when they started working for the county. We have before you today a revision to our current policy whereby we would mirror something that the Florida retirement system does, whereas persons charged or convicted of certain crimes will have their benefits suspended or placed on hold or taken away depending on a conviction for such crime. So staff is recommending that we place a similar provision in our policies for our retiree subsidy, and if an employee is convicted of those crimes and no longer deemed a retiree under Florida statute, they would lose that benefit with this policy change. I do want to note that there is a change to the citation in the policy. It says 112.0801. That should be changed to 112.3173.
Actually, no, the change is going to be in the suspension of subsidy section. It's 112.3171. We'll change to 112.3173.
Okay.
The original reference is fine.
Okay, what Dylan said. With that, staff recommends that this policy is changed, whereby the employees would lose that subsidy if they are no longer deemed a retiree, and that a hold would be placed on, or that the benefits would be suspended if a hold is placed on their benefits under any Florida retirement system.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any questions for Mr. Brown?
So moved.
We have a motion from Commissioner Flesher, a second from Commissioner Adams. All in favor? Aye. Anybody from the audience want to speak on this issue? Last chance. Anybody from the audience? There seems to be none, so we have the motion from Commissioner Flesher, second by Commissioner Adams. All in favor? Aye. Passes 3-0. Thank you, Mr. Brown. We will now move on to human resources, and we have the approval of renewal of Florida Blue Administrative Services Agreement for the period October 1st through 2018 through September 30th, 2023, and providing the wellness contributions of $300,000 over a 5-year period. Good morning. We're looking forward to this exciting presentation now. Your name and address for the record, please.
Resources Director. As you are aware, we've been working with Lockton over the past several months, reviewing our plan and making recommendations for cost savings and improvement. And as a part of that, Lockton's been pretty busy. They went out for a proposal for administrative services for our health plan, and we had several proposers respond. Lockton performed an in-depth analysis. I'm not going to go into the specific details of that because it is quite complicated, but that analysis ended up indicating that Florida Blue was ranked as number 1, and we asked them to negotiate with Florida Blue. And what you have before you is the negotiated
5-year agreement that Lockton was able to secure on our behalf. And under that agreement, we have $50,000 of wellness that would be granted to us when we execute the agreement with Florida Blue. And then each fiscal year, we would have another $50,000 be contributed to the county's trust for wellness benefits. The agreement does provide for a 3% increase in administrative service fees on October 1st, 2019, as well as another 3% increase on October 1st, 2021. We do have the ability, if we wanted to make a change with 30 days notice to Florida Blue, we can make a change, so we're not locked in. But the end result of this renewal proposal and agreement is that it would actually be a reduction of over $120,000 in fees over a 5-year agreement due to the wellness contribution of $300,000 that would come back to us.
Thank you. It's always good to hear that there's some reduction in healthcare, given the otherwise great rises in the cost of healthcare
Yes.
to the community. Any questions, Ms. Boyle? There be none. Any questions from the audience on this issue on the healthcare? There be none. We have a motion from Commissioner Adams. Second from Commissioner Flesher. All in favor? Aye. Passes 3-0. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to health insurance recommendations for the plan year 2018-19.
Okay, so every year and actually throughout the year, we evaluate the performance of the health plan to identify how it's performing, what does our funding look like, do we need to make any adjustments in funding or adjustments in the benefit structure. Again, what we're looking for is to stay affordable, to remain competitive, and to have a sustainable plan for the benefit of the members. This year, we are recommending no changes to the funding required by employee contributions, retiree contributions, and the county's contribution. We're performing at this time pretty well spot on with budget, and we reviewed it with the county administrator and the director of management and budget, and we believe that going into the next fiscal year, the current funding is going to be sufficient, and we do not recommend any changes to the plan at this time. What we are recommending is that we focus on rewarding wellness activities of our members under the health plan. And what we would like to do is to proceed with an incentive for those individuals who are taking the steps to go to their physician annually and have their annual well check and get their blood pressure and their blood draws and understand their cholesterol and step on a scale and get a little bit of feedback about some lifestyle choices that may improve their overall health. And the purpose of that, and we were talking about it with staff this morning, none of us like to do it. We like to just kind of believe that everything's really good, and then what happens is one day we find out that it's not, and we haven't taken the steps necessary, and maybe we're facing a condition that could have been prevented or managed, and the impact to that is a hit to the health plan, and those can be very affordable and ultimately, you know, might result in plan changes and premium increases and those kinds of things. So we're actually recommending a $25 gift card be sent out to the members if they do the right thing and get their numbers. So we believe we're going to get a return on investment. It's not going to be immediate, but we're looking for the long term.
Thank you. One thing I want to say, though, is anybody who doesn't get regular health checkups doesn't have a wife like Jackie. Any other questions from Ms. Boyle?
No, just that the recommendation for the scale might be the heavy hurdle. But,
for some of us, that might be.
Nobody wants to get on a scale, but.
Anybody with more health-focused questions?
I'm happy to move staff recommendation.
We have the motion from Commissioner Flesher, second from Commissioner Adams. Any other questions? Anybody from the audience have any question or comment on this? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Passes 3-0. Thank you very much. It's always good to hear from you. And we will now move to the Solid Waste Disposal District. This is a good one. You can just tell by the description. CCNA 2018 Work Order Number 1 to CDM Smith, Inc. for engineering services for the 2018 Water Quality Technical Report.
Move staff
We have
recommendation.
a motion from Commissioner Flesher, second from Commissioner Adams. Anybody from the audience care to comment on this issue? There being none, all in favor? Aye. Passes 3-0. Thank you very much. We can now call this meeting adjourned. I thank everybody for coming here today and participating in the meeting.
Vice Chairman, well done.